Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. This is our little kickoff for the hurricane season that starts on June 1st of next week. And we just wanted to talk, have a Tri-County press conference to talk to our citizens about the importance of being prepared. First off, I would like to introduce Director Kim Stinson with the South Carolina Emergency Management Division, who's got a few words.
Hey, thanks, Kathy, and good morning. This year is predicted to be about an average hurricane year, if whatever that means exactly, but it only takes one hurricane. And during, some of you folks remember Hurricane Hugo, that was in a mild hurricane year as well. So it's very important that we all be prepared as individuals and businesses, regardless of what the prediction is. It's also very important that we understand the evacuation process. Very important that individuals understand whether or not they're in an evacuation zone and which evacuation zone they're in, so that when the governor and local authorities do in fact give an order to evacuate, that they know that they should evacuate. And it's important to evacuate as soon as possible. It could take as long as 35 hours to get everybody out of the Charleston and Tri-County area to safety. It's in terms of the clearance times, it can be rather lengthy. So people can be asked to evacuate when the weather is clear, like it is today. But it's very, very critical that they evacuate. It's a life safety issue in terms of that preparedness piece. And one of the things that we do at the state level, and I know Charleston County does similar, is that we have the South Carolina Hurricane Guide, which is chock full of good information in terms of what you need to do before evacuation, after you evacuate, after the storm, all those steps. This is available today on our website. It's also available in Walgreens statewide, also at the coastal DMV offices as well. So it's out there, and counties also have copies of it for distribution as well. Our website, scmd.org, again, has this on there, but there's also lots of other information where both businesses and individuals can seek information on how to be better prepared. But the preparedness piece, as individuals and businesses, is critical, and we all need to take heed on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this time I'd like to introduce and ask Chairman Summey to come up and speak for Charleston County.
Thanks, Kathy. First of all, let me say how much of a privilege it always is to stand here with all of our folks from around the low country, especially with Berkeley and Dorchester. And it's always nice, I think, for our citizens in all three counties to know how well we cooperate and we work together, not only to make initiatives happen for the community, but to keep people safe. And that's what's so important, is us working together. And it's sort of the theme for today. It's being prepared and working together and working with your fellow citizen on making sure that you stay safe. And you need to know that Charleston County, Berkeley, and Dorchester are all prepared. We had a nice little unfortunate undry run back in October. But you know, when these things happen, it helps us prepare for the larger events. And we're ready, but we want you all to be ready individually. Understand where you need to go, understand where you're going, and just be cognizant of what's happening around you. And so we just want to keep everyone safe this hurricane season and pray for the good Lord we don't have to worry about it, but just be ready if we do.
Thank you. Next, I would like Supervisor Piegler to come up and speak for Berkeley County.
Thank you very much. As Elliot said, the October event had a few snags in it, and nothing is more important than the safety of the public. And Tom Smith, he's our emergency director. He is well prepared. We've had an after-action report from him and a meeting, and we feel that working with Dorchester and Charleston is something that is required. And we look forward to being of assistance, but we hope that it won't be needed this year. But in the event it does, we will stand ready to take care of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do you want to add anything? Next, I would like Councilman David Chinnis from Dorchester County to come speak for Dorchester County.
Thanks, Kathy. Just to reiterate Chairman Summey and Supervisor Pigler's comments, and sort of to add to that, with 50 people a day moving into the low country, it is extremely important for these new folks that aren't from here but are come heres to understand that when we make these proclamations that you need to leave, that you probably need to leave. You shouldn't hang out. It's the work between the counties to make sure that our people are safe is critically important. I'll make a short story here. During our rain event back in the fall, that morning I got a phone call on my personal phone from Elliott, sort of offering some of the opportunities that Charleston County had if we needed them, and just to let folks know that happens. Same thing, with Supervisor Pigler. We're here to help each other because we're here about our citizens. And again, if we ask you to leave, your property is not worth your life. I promise you that. Thank y'all.
Okay, from the Charleston County perspective, we kind of touched on it just a few minutes ago. The population in the Tri-County is turning over so rapidly to where we know that we have citizens that have probably never even been through a hurricane, that's never lived on the coast. So the biggest concern from an emergency management perspective is, again, the complacency of those that live here, and we haven't had a major storm in quite some time. So we just want to impress upon people the importance of being prepared. You've heard that said several times, and you're probably going to hear it from now on. The more we say it, we hope that it's going to, sink in, if you will. One of the ways that in Charleston County that we have put together our own hurricane guide that kind of goes along with the state's hurricane guide with information that is specific to Charleston County. And I've got some copies over there for the media to take with them if you'd like to take it. But we have information in our guide also of evacuation routes, evacuation zones, the how to put together a kit, when to leave, we've got a multitude of information, and this can be found on the Charleston County website as we speak now. Along with other information, everybody's website has a lot of information on it to help people to be better prepared. So one of the things is again, I think it was mentioned, was know your zone. We have a map over here to my left that has the evacuation zones for the Tri-County. And so it's important that you know that information. And also we have Charleston County has an app. To my right, we have a display here. We have an app that we also provide that information on. We can put emergency information on there instantaneously during the time of an incident occurring. We can actually update that information. We can update what shelters are open. We can update all the emergency routes. Press releases are put on there. And in addition to that, we have a notification system called the Charleston Citizen Alert Notification System that's also displayed over here on my right, where we encourage our citizens to sign up. They can go in and voluntarily sign up. They go to the county's website and click on the banner for that notification system, and it will take them through a sign-up process. They can provide as much or as little information as they'd like. They can also choose what types of situations they want to be notified of. So therefore, if we put out any kind of notification, then through that can get it either email, text, voice, or all of the above. And so we encourage the citizens to please sign up for that information, because that'll be the most quickest way, one of the quickest ways to get any kind of emergency information that's going out in reference to the incident that's maybe occurring at that time. Okay, at this time I'd like to turn it over to Mario Formasano. He's the director with the Dorchester County Emergency Management Department to say a few words.
Good morning. I think it's important that we recognize that hurricane storm surge is not just a coastal issue. It's not just an immediate coastal issue. We have a significant number of areas that we've identified as a result of a hurricane evacuation study that was done a few years ago that has illustrated a newfound risk to storm surge well inland, as far as 17A in some areas. So we have a significant number of people, again, a newer population that's moving to the area that's inexperienced with hurricanes and tropical storms, but people that have never been through a hurricane before that don't understand their risk. So with that, there are a number of tools that are available primarily online to identify whether or not your business or residency is within an evacuation zone through the South Carolina Emergency Management Division, and some of the other local emergency management department pages have interactive map tools where you plug in your address and it will tell you what zone you live in. So again, hurricane storm surge impacts are not just an immediate coastal issue. To add to that, concentrating on the 4 steps to being prepared, building a kit, being prepared to be on your own for at least 72 hours. Within that kit, also taking in consideration your pets, other unique family needs that you have, whether you have people with functional needs or people that are dependent on prescription drugs, to make sure that you've incorporated them into your kit and subsequently your emergency plan. Be informed. Again, I focused on understanding your risks. We're not only at risk to hurricanes, but we're also at risk to other natural hazards like earthquakes. So make sure that you've kind of thought about some of the impacts associated with those hazards and what that looks like with your household and your business. And the last thing is to get involved, to participate in community activities. Dorchester County Emergency Management will be hosting a Hurricane Expo next Saturday, June 4th at Lowe's on Dorchester Road. That's an opportunity to come out and learn about getting prepared, interface with some of our public safety and some of our other disaster relief organizations that are all partners in emergency response and recovery operations. You can also get involved with the Community Emergency Response Team program, or the CERT program, and that's where we train folks on how to not only be prepared within their households and their neighborhoods, but how they can support first responders during disasters.
Okay, next I would like to bring up Tom Smith. He's the director for the Berkeley County Emergency Preparedness Division.
Thank you. Good morning. Most importantly, we've said everything that really needs to be dwelt on. We can't overemphasize your personal responsibility to develop a plan, to read the hurricane guides, and be prepared to evacuate when the media goes online and tells you that they recommend you evacuate. Go ahead and study an evacuation route now. Know the area you live in. We have over 800 bridges in our Tri-County region, and you saw from the flooding we had this past October how many municipalities and areas became islands amongst themselves, that in a long-term event, getting supplies and essential medicines would have been extremely difficult. We were always concerned about the special needs, special medical needs people. They don't come forward and identify themselves in advance to us, and we're always caught by surprise when we have an emergency and they wait too late. So far, we've not had a fatality resultant from that, but it always puts the first responders that go to their rescue in peril as well. So please study the Hurricane Guide, develop your own plan, call your emergency management offices in your county, and I also would like to reinforce the necessity to get involved in the community emergency response teams. That training is free. It's very valuable training, and it could be your life you save, your family member, or someone in your neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, I'll open it up for questions to anybody up here, if you have any. Yes, sir?
Can you tell us some of the things you learned from the October flooding?
Well, one of the things is, again, is the preparedness. We had, in Charleston County, didn't have quite as much of a flooding issue as our neighboring counties, Berkeley and Dorchester County did. But again, those areas that aren't used to being, if they were prepared, then for anything, then they would have been, helped be prepared. And but this was the flooding in October was, as they refer to, the 1,000-year flood. And it was not something that any of us anticipated would be as bad as it would. You guys want to say anything more?
I'm looking for something specific that you learned from that.
Well, let me throw something out there, I guess. One of the things that we did in Dorchester County, because we did get quite a bit of water, and we made a decision, I guess on the first day, that Saturday, that we believed a curfew was necessary. And the curfew honestly wasn't for a criminal element or anything like that. It was to try to make certain that our emergency crews, fire, rescue, whatever it was, could get to where they needed to go and not worry about people that were driving around looking at, how much is this bridge covered up? Yeah, let's go look at that. And the curfew it was not an easy thing to decide. I know people think we just make these decisions off the cuff, and it wasn't easy to decide, but when we decided it and we put it in place, it was to try to keep people safe, and it was number one, trying to keep our first responders safe. I think that's one of the things that, we're not doing these things because we want to do them. We're doing them, we're asking because we want to. I don't want to see any one of my constituents or any one of my fellow councilmen's constituents in a church on a Tuesday because they're burying a family member because they didn't listen to what people are asking them to do, just to keep them safe.
So what did you learn from that?
What did we learn? We learned that
Unpopular decisions.
we learned that it's not the most popular decision with people, and we saw people that said pretty much we're going to go out just because they put a curfew on. Here's your sign. Oh, I think it was a success. I think for the most part it was very successful. Most people didn't do that. There were some challenges initially with people worried about making it to work. They weren't affected maybe where they were going to work, like especially in Dorchester County, they weren't affected nearly as intently, I guess, as some of the areas in Dorchester County, and so their guys were waiting for them to come to work, and we were able to pick up the phone and make some phone calls and call some of the major employers and say, hey, can you get this word out? And quite honestly, the major employers said, don't come if it's not safe, and that was a good thing. So learn some communication skills. You learn things, like I said, when Elliot called me and said, hey, you need buses to get your folks to safety, let me know. We'll make it happen. So it's nice to hear those things. Cooperation is there whether you see it or not. No question about it.
One thing from a Berkeley County perspective, we had a huge problem with people moving traffic barricades. This was happening, they would get out and go around it just to explore to see what the nature of the water was. We only had one vehicle that actually went off the road, and we had no fatalities, but we had numerous situations where the people that were moving barricades, if they had actually seen what they were driving over or around in daylight, I think they would have thought twice. And these barricades were they're Yodocs and Jersey barriers, which are solid concrete. People were pushing them and dragging them out of their way with their four-wheel drives. We were very lucky that we didn't have loss of life there. And this affected all three of our counties. As far as the EOC staffing, I was surprised at the number of support people that we had from other agencies that came in. DOT in Berkeley County was I had 6 people there most of the 3-day weekend. They would go back to their headquarters there in Moncks Corner and regroup and come back. And we had some great support. And it's those people that really get stressed out and overworked during that time frame, when a lot of the stuff, if the people would just take the precautions that the media was telling them to take and leave, but it is hard, I admit, for you to desert your house and your belongings, and then you have to go stay at a distant place. We worry about looters, for example. We had some of that in Berkeley County. There are a lot of lessons learned. They're too numerous to go over in detail, and some are easy fixes. There are a few that this traffic barricade thing, I've had several meetings with DOT and law enforcement. That is a big concern. People insisting on driving over flooded roadways, extremely dangerous. So please stress precautions. Yes, ma'am.
So moving forward, if that was an issue that you identified, if something happens in the future, how do you prevent people from continuing to do that and move barricades? Would you have law enforcement in front of them or watching them overnight? What's the solution?
Well, staffing of law enforcement, they were spread pretty thin. We had 100% of Berkeley County Sheriff's Office out there, plus the municipalities were in force. They would leave one site and we received numerous calls about this. We're going to do some planning to permanently anchor these where they can be removed after the event. That's already been addressed. There is a facility to put stakes, but some of these people with their mega four-wheel drives actually caused some of the residential flooding because it was a good time to go splash and play. And that, in our College Park area, that was specifically the problem. So, thank you.
I think a lot of it's education. I think one of the things that we all learned in Charleston was, you know, if you go back to that first night that we really had the flooding, it was a miracle that we not only lose any of our citizens' lives, but any of our first responders. I think we had something like 49 water rescues in a 6-hour period that night. And I can remember sitting at home, listening to the radio, about to go out of my mind until about 2 o'clock in the morning, how horrific even the chatter over the radio was, trying to get folks to safety. And I think, you know, to go back to some of what David said, we've got a lot of folks who live here now who are from the Northeast, the Northwest, from the Midwest, who aren't used to living in the low country. And, you know, we're looking at 2 to 4 inches of rain this weekend, and it doesn't take but a second for places to flood that don't normally have water. So we learned that it doesn't, not necessarily, the places you would typically think of being vulnerable aren't always the only places that are. And so people need to heed the warning when myself or David or Bill or the governor stands up and says, "Hey, folks, stay at home." I mean, a lot of places we weren't asking people to evacuate; we just asked them to stay at home, and they were out, you know, car surfing in 6 foot of water. You know, what people need to realize, not only are they putting themselves in danger, but in the community that we live in, with the type of first responders, law enforcement, fire, rescue, EMS folks that we have, they're not going to leave people in harm's way. They're going to put their own lives on the line to come help them. So not only are they jeopardizing themselves, but they're jeopardizing someone else as well. And so I think it's really an education thing, that when we ask you to do something, we're not doing it because we're just being willy-nilly about it. This is serious. Your life's at stake. Others' lives are at stake. And you need to heed the caution. We're doing it because we love you and care for you, and we're trying to protect you.
So this is kind of a two-part question. Obviously, I wasn't here for Hugo, but
I was.
I assume most of you were. So
7th grade.
When it comes to, obviously, the Thousands Flood is a different thing, but it was a huge thing and it impacted our community very greatly, similar to Hugo. Obviously, this last one, we have social media. We didn't really have that for Hugo.
No.
How different was this experience with social media capabilities?
Kathy was here. I was in the 7th grade, but I will tell you, I will say this. There was another Summy standing here with her, okay? And social media has helped a lot.
How does it change how you can reach?
Well, what we've done in Charleston County as relates to social media is we specifically have a function in our Emergency Operations Center that falls under the PIO that monitors all the social media. Charleston County Emergency Management has a Facebook page. Charleston County Government has a Facebook page. Charleston County Government has a Twitter page. We have our own app. And there's a whole lot more out there, but that's just to name a few. And our social media function is primarily just to sit and monitor and get the word, use those avenues to get the word out also to our citizens. In addition to the fact that we still have the good old-fashioned telephone where people call in with questions, and we have a bank of operators that can answer those questions or get them the help that they need. And one of the other things, kind of off from the social media subject, but that we do in the Tri-County area that I'm very proud to say is the Tri-County works as one. We are one. We're not 3 different counties. We are one when it comes to a major incident that affects all of us. We meet, the Tri-County meets on a regular basis. We have conference calls. We talk with the different officials. So we can all speak as one also. So that's the key there, is to be able to speak as one, to get the word out to all citizens of the Tri-County. So we're saying the same thing. Any other questions?
May I
Yes,
say something
yes,
about
sir. Yes, sir.
Addition to what Kathy said, in Berkeley County, we had our, Public Information Officer, Michael Muley. He had a list of roads that were closed and the locations where they were closed. So that facilitated people who had to go somewhere the opportunity to see where those dangers lie. And additionally, I can't drive home enough what you cause when you don't listen to us. If we tell you to leave, it's not because we don't like you. We're telling you because we care about you. If, for example, French Quarter Creek, the first, time we advised people to leave, I think only 2 left. So what we ended up doing is mobilizing high water equipment from the National Guard, the Wildlife and Marine Resources people, and our own rescue squad and others who jeopardized their lives going back into this area to pull out, was 45 people? Yes, sir. Thompson, about 45 people that chose to ride it out, but when the water got too high, it was too late to wade out. They had to have help. And it was just, make sure that people understand we are not doing this to punish anybody. We are doing this to help them.
So looking back at that, do you think you should have been more forceful the first time around, telling them this isn't an option for you to leave? I mean, moving forward, were people not taking it seriously enough? Were you guys not urgent enough? What are you learning from that?
This is America, and we do have certain rights, and I guess, one of them is to, as you say, David said, here's your card, so you can't fix it sometimes. But, we have to, that we need to get the warning out now to let people know that this is important when we tell you that you should leave, that while it's your decision and we'll abide by that decision because we're not going to force you. We're not we're not going to be toting guns into people's houses and telling them to get out. But we want to do everything to protect our people and the public. So, okay. Dave?
Personal responsibility. Can you
Yeah.
expand on that? Because it seems to me that in a crisis situation, rescue people probably can't help themselves. There aren't enough of them.
Well, the personal responsibility is when the warnings are given that it is recommended that you evacuate, please evacuate. It's just as simple as that. The Hurricane Guide and Charleston County's Hurricane Guide lay out some kits you should prepare for, and where we typically used to just say a 72-hour kit, look at a 5-day kit. And especially look after your pets and animals. Don't leave them abandoned. Berkeley County will have, for the first time, a general population pet-friendly shelter for this season. It is very limited capacity, but we will have one. That's something that's very rare down here in the Low Country. And but we're quickly overcome with the shelter populations. Please evacuate if you feel uncomfortable about staying, especially if you've never weathered out a hurricane or severe weather. I recommend that you just evacuate. Make it a vacation somewhere else. Any other questions?
I want to go back one real quick, asking what we can do. Dorchester County, Berkeley County, Charleston County, and I just learned that all the other 2 counties did this. When the Edisto started flooding, we asked the deputies, the people that weren't leaving, they filled out next to kin forms for those folks. If that doesn't get your attention, again, this is America, but if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what's going to. They filled out next of kin forms for people that said they weren't going to leave, so that we knew where they were. We could notify their next of kin. If you can't get that as a message, I'm not sure what else we can do.
I think the other thing, though, to go back to Megan's question before, that's important that hasn't been said is our media partners and how important y'all are really to this whole process. Yeah, you got social media and all that, but you still have a lot of folks who get their news traditionally. And it's, you know, on all three channels, and they're getting it. And it's important, it's really significant how well y'all work with us. And we keep the balance of not only delivering the news, but understanding that it's fluctuating and it's happening at a rapid pace for us. And we're deciphering it back out as quickly as we can. So what y'all bring to us is extremely important for us to be able to get that out. So, and we do appreciate that, what y'all do for us.
So I want to ask about what we're dealing with right now. We've got an invest out in the middle of it. Where do we stand? What are our plans for the weekend, and what are the plans going forward?
Basically, we're just monitoring, just like we do any other system that might be out there that could affect us. We're in constant contact with our local National Weather Service office here in Charleston. And again, if they feel the need that this could turn into something a little more serious than what they're talking about, they will contact the local emergency management offices and let them know, and we will get together and we will discuss a game plan, if you will. But right now, it's just monitoring. We're not asking anybody to change their weekend plans, other than just be prepared for, you know, have an umbrella in case it rains, and stuff like that. There's no known on how much rain we could get, or anything along that line. So it's just, again, everybody just needs to be a little more cognizant of their surroundings and the weather around them, and just be prepared for any rain. Some of the discussion you've heard here, again, is related to the flooding, but that is not a whole lot of difference between the flooding we saw in October than we could see for a hurricane. So the biggest thing is those locations that probably got flooded during the October flooding may not realize that they could see that same kind of flooding during a hurricane, okay? So I'll close with saying how, and on behalf of all my friends up here, how important it is for people to leave. When these guys and gals up here tell you to leave, they mean it. Again, they're not trying to be mean, they're trying to save your life. So it is very, very important that you leave. And I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.